To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. I can't express, and I've tried, how nice, how wonderful, how easy, how stress-free living off-grid in a tiny house is. How could it possibly be easier, less stress? Aren't you responsible for everything you do? Yeah, you are. And that's what makes it so great. You don't have to rely on anybody else, one. And two, when something goes wrong, if you minimize your life, there's not a lot that you got to do to fix it. So the other day, I was working on adding to my system, my solar panel system. The wire I had wasn't thick enough to handle 10 solar panels. Since I added 10 more amps, I didn't have enough. That means the wire would have overheated and eventually burned up. So that was early day. So that meant all day long, the panels were basically handling all my electrical needs. And then of course, when it goes dark, then the batteries kind of take over your electrical needs. It started to get dusk, and all of a sudden I saw my battery voltage just drop like a rock. By 8 o'clock, I was down to 12.4 volts. Now, normally by 8 o'clock, I have, 12.8, 12.7 volts. You're not allowed to get below 12.3. Now, when I get up in the morning, after running all night long, my volts are around 12.4. So that's exactly where I want it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's happened here? Well, I knew I must have made a mistake somewhere when I was rewiring the solar panels. So I immediately disconnected the solar panels from the system, just in case that was the problem. And I started the generator. So I ran the generator all night so I could have electricity to run my refrigerator. Again, no stress, no worries. Now, normally when you live in your house and you have an electrical issue, you know what you do without? Electric. Or if you have a generator, most people don't have a very big generator. I know some of the preppers, they'll have 10,000 watt generators that would power the whole house. But if you just have a little generator like I have, you're gonna maybe power your refrigerator. Well, with us, that was more than enough power. That did us fine. I didn't stress about anything. It's a quiet generator, so it didn't make any noise. It was perfect. Well, what had happened, it was stupid actually. I have 4 batteries and they're all tied into a series. Well, as I was wiring the solar panels, I must have disconnected and not realized 2 of the batteries. Actually just one wire, but it disconnected 2 batteries. Just couldn't keep up with the energy needs because we were using energy like we had 4 batteries. So got up the next morning, solar panels immediately started charging, and I instantly realized what happened because they were charging too fast. And I looked at the batteries, sure enough, they were disconnected. This morning, I lost another utility, water. I woke up this morning and my tank of water was empty. Now last night when I went to bed, it was right here. Now normally I fill it up when it gets down to right here. That way, in case something happens, I got enough water to fix it. And my biggest fear is either the generator will stop running, and the reason that's important is if the generator stops running, I cannot run my well pump. Long story, but eventually I'm going to make that so I can run that off solar. The other concern I have is the well pump might go bad. It wasn't completely empty. It still had a little bit left down at the bottom. I'm looking around, what the heck had happened? Well, right here is the connection to the tank, right there. Some reason it had formed a crack right there. So what that means is either I got to replace the cap, go on Amazon and find a new cap. That's going to take a week to get. Or go to the hardware store and buy a bunch of different little fittings that maybe I can modify it so it would fit on there. Or fix it. Now, I had some JB Weld laying around from a previous project. The project was actually the wood stove. I thought, well, I'll just JB Weld that crack. Now, the thing is, it's going to take 12 hours to cure enough that it will hold 4,400 pounds of pressure. It says it'll cure in an hour, but I tried that and it cracked a little bit more. So I thought I'd just redo it, and give it the full 12 hours. Well, that means we have no water, right? We're out of water. Yet you can see I have a full tank of water. Let's go through this. You see, this is what's so cool about living off grid is as soon as I saw the tank was empty, the biggest aggravation was, dang, now I got to fill the tank. Everything else was no big deal. The fix was easy. If that works, if not, I'll go to the hardware store. So normally what I do is I start the well up. I run the water through a filter, this filter. It's not a carbon filter, it's nothing fancy, it's only 5 microns to fill the tank. And the reason I do this is right now my well casing, you know, the long pipe that goes down the length of the well, has a crack in it. And although I can't visually see any dirt, when I filter it, this does get a little brownish color, not very bad. So there must be a little bit of dirt in the water, no big deal. That being said, I'm not sure how safe the well water is to drink. Next year, we're going to replace that casing. You know, these filters, they last. Well, the one I got in it right now lasts, I don't know, a few months now. In here, this is still got bacteria, possible bacteria, because the well could be contaminated, and algae can grow in here. So I use chlorine, bleach. And you go to the CDC website, and it will tell you how much bleach to put in it. But I don't like drinking bleach. Not a big fan of that. So then I pump water out of the IBC tank like I showed you with this little cap through my RV pump and into the house. That's how I'm going to do it when we build a tiny house. Maybe for a little while until I might do something else with the well, but that's all in the future. The RV pump is ran off DC electric, so it's ran off the solar panels and the battery. I only have to run the generator every couple of weeks to fill the tank. And then I just had to figure out, what are we going to do about water for today? Well, really, it's not a big deal. I went ahead and filled the tank up since I had to start the generator and run the well and all that. So I filled the tank up, and then I just filled up a couple buckets with chlorine water. So water exactly like this, filtered through the white filter. So the water in the tank we just use for showers and washing dishes. Anything beyond that gets extra stages of filtration. So if I want drinking water, I use a carbon filter. So now the water is not only went through a white filter, it's going through a carbon filter into a homemade Berkey. Now, trust me, this gets better as we go along. So I made a homemade Berkey. It's out of a bucket. It's got 2 Berkey filters. And what I do with that is these Berkey filters have tested bad. But I don't believe that they're totally bad. I've done this in the past. They still do a fantastic job filtering out all the bad stuff. I run water through this carbon filter into a pre-filtered Berkey. And then finally, I take that pre-filtered Berkey and I put it into this Berkey water. I know it seems like a lot of steps, but I'm a big fan of making sure my water is really clean. I believe it's just my opinion, and you can take it or leave it, do whatever you want with it. But I believe water is probably the biggest problem when it comes to cancer. I know that I used to live in a town, and here it seemed like everybody had cancer of some sort, and the dogs had cancer, tumors growing off their legs. Our family, my family, my wife, my daughter, and I, and my dogs never got it. And the reason we never got it was because I had a reverse osmosis system at the time, and we drank all our water through that reverse osmosis. So I think all the pesticides and all the fertilizers they use in the farms seeps into our water, whether you're using city water or... And so I really want to filter everything. But again, I had no problems obtaining that level of quality of water, even though my system was broke. No stress. I just went, oh, well, Carolyn, you know, I got to fix this. So I'm going to go out and fill the tank up, and I'm going to give you 2 buckets of water. Now, the only downside is we don't have a water heater. That's okay. If we need hot water, we can boil it on our propane stove, or I can go ahead and make a temporary tank like this that we used to use on our nomadic lifestyle. And it's just simply a 5-gallon bucket. So this 5-gallon bucket we used to use as nomads as our water tank. Now right here, I can put that RV pump right onto this. Now the reason I haven't done that is this bucket cracked a while back. But all I got to do is just get another bucket, which I got several. Take this plug right here out, hook it up, fill this up with water, and now my RV pump can pump water from this bucket right into the house. So I hope I can encourage you to start thinking outside the box and to develop a system where you don't have to rely on people to come out and fix your stuff, or you do without. Thanks for watching.